All right, folks, we'll be starting in just a minute. I just need to make sure that all the channels are connected. Facebook live stream, as well as our YouTube channel, and then also YouTube and X. And I think we're doing all right here. All right, YouTube's fine. X is fine. And yep, there's that one that always gives me a hard time. Facebook, let me get that one activated. And it is telling me it's offline. Apologies for the delay, but we'll try to get this reconnected here. Save, and let's see what happens. I refresh, so I will take a look to see if it's gone to Facebook. All right, Facebook did hook up, so we're good on Facebook, we're good on YouTube, and we are good on X. Fantastic. I'm also going to pull it up on my phone to make sure Facebook is conveying and working correctly. Yep, it's showing as live. Great. Hey, folks, Gene Gowan with the Chatham Journal. I got a Shibo Rojas of the Chatham News and Record, and it's a ChathamNC Sports Roundup. We're starting a little bit earlier today simply because of, it's all my fault, a scheduling conflict. What we got coming up, we're into the fourth round of the North Carolina High School Athletic Association basketball playoffs. We've got a couple teams still playing tomorrow. Then Shibo will do a rundown of how all the teams have done this week. We'll go into the stories that are in this week's Chatham News and Record that comes out today. Of course, one of everybody's favorite, Shibo's Athlete of the Week. We'll wrap up winter sports and talk about spring sports, which have kicked off already. So there's soccer, softball, baseball, lacrosse, track, and field going on. And then we'll mention where Shibo and I will be for the next few days because there's still a whole bunch of stuff going on. So let me get rid of this and let me bring on a Shibo. All right, Mr. Shibo, give us a rundown of where the Chatham County teams are relative to the North Carolina High School Athletic Association basketball playoffs. Who played on Tuesday and who's still going to play tomorrow?
Yeah, so we had 3 teams playing on Tuesday in the third round. Northwoods boys, Chatham Central's boys, and of course Seaforth's girls, and 2 advanced. So we got Northwoods boys, number 3 to 2A East bracket, going up against number 2 Southwest Onslow, and we'll have to make that trip tomorrow to have a chance to make another regional final appearance. And then Seaforth, like we said, playing for another regional final appearance as well. They're going to host number 3 East Duplin in the girls 2A bracket. So that's what we had from the second round. I mean, from the third round, excuse me. And just to go through the scores from the third round, of course, Northwood with a big 65-43 win over South Granville in a rematch of their New Year's Eve matchup earlier this year. And then we have Seaforth winning in a rout on the girls' side, 74-31 over Hertford County. And then, unfortunately, Chatham Central just couldn't come out on top against Southern Wake, the number 2 seed in the 1A East bracket on Tuesday, and they fell in that one 77-64. So, yeah, that's just a quick rundown of basketball this week. And, Gina, you want to go in even further into these games?
Yeah, why don't you give folks an idea? There's lots going on. Also, as a special bonus, I found out that on Friday's Seaforth game that they're playing at home at halftime. The UNC dance team is performing at halftime at Seaforth, so there's a little bit extra bonus there for folks who want a little extra bonus. But yeah, why don't you give folks a rundown because I think Northwood learned a lesson from the previous game where they were behind for 3 quarters. They played a little bit differently for this game, and both you and I were at the Seaforth game, and they look strong. The Lady Hawks look strong. So, yeah, why don't you give folks a little bit more in-depth rundown of what happened on Tuesday? And if you want, go ahead and give us an idea of what you expect to see on Friday.
Yeah, so starting with Northwood, the boys, like we said, a rematch of that game with South Granville. I think the first one, Northwood won that one 63-56. So coming in this one, it's going to be tough, of course, to beat a team that you already beat earlier. But They just jumped out on them early, 16-8 in the first quarter. Just started really high intensity on defense. Was the way Northwood started that game, especially down low with Chad Graves being able to disrupt some shots at the paint without getting in foul trouble early on. And KJ Terry, the star of South Granville, and Mason Brown as well, they kind of got neutralized in that game. Despite them, trying to attack and trying to make some things work, shots just weren't falling because Northwood was, right in their pockets every time they took a shot, every time they got the ball. You had some key steals, of course, from Bo Harvey, like we always see to start the game, that led to some buckets in transition. And from there, I mean, they just rattled South Granville, and like we said, we're all over them, 37-18 at halftime. And it was just pretty much a blowout. We had the backups come in and even score some points at the end of the game there for Northwood. So Cam Fowler finished that game with 19, Isaiah Blair 13, Chad Graves 10 points. Just a overall great team performance from Northwood, and I'm sure they feel really good going into tomorrow night's game at Southwest Onslow with that momentum. But knowing you will have to step up the play going that far and playing against the number 2 seed, which we'll get into in a second. And then just to finish out the boys game, just going to Chatham Central and Southern Wake. I did watch this game back on NFHS, and yeah, the Bears, kind of hung around early on, but shots still weren't as falling as they hoped. And Southern Wake really played really good defense against Chatham Central, and even though I think Reed Albright still had 22 points in that game, he just couldn't have the same impact. I'm sure he would like in that game as well. And Brendan Oldham had to be taken out earlier in the game, but he came in, did some good things, but some of his shots weren't falling as well. So just an unfortunate night for Chatham Central offensively, going against a really good Southern Wake team. And unfortunately, their season came to an end after, of course, knocking off the back-to-back defending champions in round 2 earlier last week. So that's what we have from Chatham Central. And then the girls' game, like we said, just total domination from Seaforth. In that one, I think I'm about to pull it up now. It was at halftime, 43-12. Gabby White, 17 points. Katie Leonard, 14 points, and that's just at the half. So what we saw a lot of in that first half was Gabby White just putting her head down, getting to the basket. Pretty much everyone else too. Katie Leonard, Peyton Collins. It looked like that was the key to that win. They just wanted to attack and put Hertford County away in that one, and they finished that one with a score of 74-31. So Seaforth has rolled everyone so far in these first 3 rounds, putting up over 70 points in each of these games, and also limiting teams to around 30, 20 points. So really, like we talked with them earlier this year, I mean, they had a state championship in mind. That's what they wanted to get to after finishing in the Final Four last year and the year before, getting to the state championship game, but falling short. So now a lot of those players from those past teams, seniors, juniors, they have that experience. They know what to do in the playoffs, and it's really showing this season.
Yeah, and you mentioned a lot of my prediction right now is I think unless they stumble somewhere along the way, that we will see Seaforth back at the regionals next week in Winston-Salem, as well as the final game, the championship game. Interesting thing is I was at the NC State game yesterday, and I was talking to a fellow photographer who shoots a lot at the Winston-Salem Joel Coliseum. And the thing about that, I think they kind of threw off Seaforth last year, and it's I like personally I prefer Carmichael or the Dean Dome or Reynolds Coliseum, because the thing about the Joel Coliseum, the way they had it set up for the high school games, was it's dark. And I think what happened is a lot of the times our high school teams don't play in dark gyms for the thing. So that you got this vast darkness behind it. Kind of, you got to get used to it. And the girls will be used to it because they played last year. The boys, shoot, man, they got to get past a tough game this Friday. So we'll see what happens with that. Oh, I do want to pop this up because one of the other things, this happened earlier, a couple weeks ago, but on the game there, Cam Fowler got his his ball commemorating that he got his 1,000 shot. And the neat thing about that is Bo Harvey also got his 1,000 point this year as well, this season. but Cam's a junior, so he's still got another year here at Northwood. So I am looking for that. And I think the schedule came out for next week for Winston-Salem. Would you happen to have that as to when the regionals are? Because basically, we're going to be looking at 2A, and the game plan is I'll probably be planning out there to take pictures of hopefully both Northwood and C4.
Yeah, so the regionals schedule was released, I think, yesterday. Thursday will be the 2A regional championship, so March 13th. And Saturday, March 15th, will be the 2A state championships along with 4A. So for our Chatham County teams, if they do get past tomorrow night, and then, of course, Thursday night, those are their dates that they're probably looking at for playing.
All right, here's more of a overall North Carolina High School Athletic Association. They also have did they release the final conference configurations? Because I think there were some challenges. Most of those were turned down. There were a few exceptions that were made. But what's the latest on that?
Yeah, so the North Carolina High School Athletic Association did release the approved conferences today. So we have set conferences now in the process of realignment, and I can just kind of run them down here. So the 1A Conference 3, of course, is going to have our charter schools, Ascend Leadership, Central Carolina Academy, Chatham Charter, Clever Garden, River Mill, Southern Wake Academy, and Woods Charter. So that's pretty much not different from the Central Tar Heel 1A Conference that we have right now. But Chatham Central will be in a different conference. Still in the 1A, 2A, but this time it's a majority 1A conference. So it's going to be, of course, Chatham Central, College Prep and Leadership, also a 1A. North Stokes is 1A. South Davidson 1A. Winston-Salem Prep 1A. And then the 2A schools in this conference are going to be Bishop McGuinness and South Stokes. So pretty good competition when you look at, Winston-Salem Prep, Bishop McGuinness, and some of these other schools and other sports for Chatham Central. But it's going to be a lot of travel though, because they have to travel to the Triad for pretty much all of these schools here in their conference. And then 3A, 4A Conference B, looking at Eastern Randolph 3A, Northmore 3A, Northwood will be a 3A, and Jordan Matthews will be a 4A in this conference. And then the other two 4A schools will be Southwestern Randolph and Uwharrie Charter. So pretty close as far as distance around that West Chatham and Randolph area, and also, of course, Moore County with Northmore as well. And then our last conference with the Chatham County schools is Seaforth by themselves in the 4A, 5A conference. So it's all 5A with Cedar Ridge, Durham School of the Arts, Orange, Seaforth, of course, and South Granville, and Webb as well. But Carborough will be the sole 4A school in this conference. As I think that was a change in kind of later stages of the process of getting Carborough in that conference just for distance and travel. So, yeah, that's a rundown of the new conferences for our Chatham County schools for the 2025 through 2029 academic years. And, so now I think that the North Carolina High School Association, they're going to have a press conference today talking about this. But also I think the next steps is just figuring out how they're going to work playoffs, of course, seeding, finding venues for championships, and figuring out the postseason and how that's going to work.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. You and I, we saw Jared, the AD, over at Seaforth on Tuesday night. He mentioned, I know I think all of the ADs here in Chatham County said they're going to try to schedule, even if they're not in the same conference, try to schedule games between themselves here in the county. I know Jared had mentioned he and Dalton over at Northwood have already figured out there's going to be a Northwood Seaforth football game, and I think they're also going to work on that on the basketball game. So hopefully Chatham County folks, you will still get to see your local teams play against each other. The ADs are going to try to do that as much as they can with the scheduling. It may not be that easy with football, but hopefully it will work out well with basketball. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how things turn out. All right, Ashiba, do you want to just give folks a quick rundown of where all the basketball teams landed up? Because I think, except for Northwood and Seaforth, for all of them, their seasons have gotten wrapped up. So overall, what's your feeling or what's your assessment of how the teams did this year?
Yeah, we can look just starting with the boys, going back down to 1A, looking at Woods Charter and Chatham Charter, and in our boys basketball roundup that is out in the paper this week and online. You can read more about that first round meeting between the two teams. Can you hear me, Gene? I think my
No, you're fine. I can hear everything.
Okay. Yeah, those two teams met in the first round. Chatham Charter got the best of them in that one, 52-45. And that was our fourth meeting of the year. So for Woods, I mean, this is, you can say this was their best boys basketball season pretty much in program history. Getting to host their first playoff game, and then of course making it for the second straight year, building off of last year when they made their first playoff appearance and coming in and showing that experience now and showing some improvements this year. So shout out to Coach Leonard McNair at Woods Charter for doing a great job with the Wolves program and getting them to a winning level now. But Chatham Charter, like we said, still came out on top in that game behind Gabe McCoy and Brendan Lavelle the senior, which had a great career at Chatham Charter. But they fortunately had to go to number 1 seed in Washington County and fell short in that one. But, they kind of went into that game with belief that they could do that they could go in there and compete with Washington County, really defensive center team with Chatham Charter. And, with our charter schools, what they had, especially Chatham Charter and Coach Messier was talking about how this isn't the same charter teams he's had in the past, but they still got to the second round of the playoffs, had a good season, and have some guys that they're looking forward to returning next year and building back up. So, just that's what we look at for 1A. And of course, Chatham Central, like we said, a great season for them, competing with some of the best in our conference with Northwood and Southeast Alamance, and then going down to the 1A playoffs, taking down the back-to-back 1A state champions, and really putting together a nice year with Brendan Alden, Reed Albright, who scoring a lot of points this year, but also Luke Gaines as well. Jeremiah Young hitting some big shots. Aiden Johnson as well, who's also a senior, and this was his last season. He hit the big shot in the Wilson Prep game, of course, to give Chatham Central the lead there at the end. So it was just really cool watching Chatham Central this season, host some big games, go through some different trials and tribulations, right? So some disappointing losses, but bounce back each and every time and still come out with a great season. So, that's just for our 1A boys. 2A boys, of course, Seaforth. We talked about them all year with the Hawks being up and down during the year, depending on what version of the Hawks you'll see night in and night out. But, considering the competition they played in the conference as well, talking to Coach Barry, they felt confident going into the playoffs, took care of Franklin Academy in that first round and got a playoff win after not making the playoffs last year. So lots of improvement from the Hawks there with Coach Barry and the guys that came back last year, like Noah Lewis, Nate Emerson, and Declan Lindquist, who I think will be back for Seaforth next year as well. So, you could almost say, considering how the regular season went, I mean, they still finished the regular season with a winning record, but the up and down it was pretty impressive for them to go in and win a playoff game on the road. That's a 24 seed. So great finish for them as well. And then looking at the girls side, right, 1A as well, we had Woods and Chatham Charter getting the playoffs, even though Woods and Chatham Charter were, lower in the bracket, but they clawed their way into the field. And Chatham Central as well, going into the playoffs, they felt confident that they could go on a pretty long run like they did last year, getting to the third round. But they came up against the same team, Beargrass Charter, who eliminated Chatham Charter in the first round. It just fell short in that second round game after kind of losing at the end there and trying to come back, but comeback effort just fell short. So a great season for our 1A girls teams as well. And then looking at our 2A girls, Northwood, they went and played they had a tough draw in that first round with the 17 seed going against the 16 seed in Southwest Edgecombe and lost that one by 10. But we also had Seaforth, who's still going as well in 2A. So, just a quick roundup of how the season ended for each of our Chatham teams.
All right. And the other thing, too, is I understand that the conference basketball conference awards, like best, first team, coach of the year, is probably going to be coming out. I think they've already voted, but that information should be coming out towards the end of next week. I think that's going to be held off until after the regionals and finals are played in Winston-Salem. The other thing I need to let folks aware of, we don't know the specific times, and we don't know if one or two or none of our remaining Chatham County schools are going to be playing in the regionals on Thursday. And that's when we usually have our live stream. So we'll have to play it by ear. We'll let folks know. We should probably know by this weekend when we'll be able to do it. Who knows, if we have a good connection over at Joel, maybe we'll do it from there. That's going to be something unique. But yeah, that's it for basketball season. Pretty much a lot of good basketball here in Chatham County this year. Some folks fell a little short. Other folks did better than they've done previously. You mentioned Coach McNair at Woods Charter, and Seaforth's just been coming on strong. Northwood's been coming on strong as well. So Chatham Central, yeah, all the teams have had good, bright spots this year. All right. Anything else on basketball before we go on to see what you have written in this week's Chatham News and Record?
Yeah, just quick rundown of the teams. We're going to see our Chatham schools go up against tomorrow night. Southwest Onslow on the boys' side. Malachi Hutchison certainly the scorer. He's going to give you about 17 points per game. Just taking a look at their schedule, I mean, the Southwest Onslow, they went 2-3 when giving up 60 points this year. So something to look out for. Both teams play really good defense as well. And if you want a kind of a comparison for how, opponents for Northwood and Southwest Onslow, they did beat Southeast Alamance in the second round, 67-48. So, they have the capability to come in and put it on some pretty good teams as well. So Northwood will have a tough task to go out there and take down the 2 seed. But for the girls, East Duplin coming in here and playing Seaforth, they have a pretty good combination of scorers with Kenzie Cave, Jemiah Pickett, Zakoya Ferrier, about 10 points from each of them as well. And 12-0, they went 12-0 in a pretty good conference with multiple teams making the playoffs in there. Number 14, Kinston, and number 19, Southwest Onslow were in their conference as well. So pretty good competition that they played throughout the year. And probably, we'll see. It probably won't be as easy for Seaforth tomorrow night, but we know that the Hawks are battle tested from who they went against this year and proving themselves against. So should be good night of basketball here in Chatham County, whether it's here at Seaforth or 2.5 hours away at Southwest Onslow.
Yeah, I think the Seaforth, as you mentioned, Seaforth girls will have a more challenging game. Notice at the last game, Peyton Collins is wearing a brace, but when I talked with her mom says she's doing all right. So they're going to have all their tools on there, and some of the secondary players did pretty well in that game that we watched this past Tuesday as well. So Seaforth girls, we're cheering for you. Northwood boys, we're also cheering for you, and we'll see what happens after tomorrow night. Anything else on basketball before you let us know what's in the paper that you've got going on?
Nope, I think we're all good with basketball. Yeah.
All right. Let's tell folks what stories you've got. Oh, before we go on, just a quick mention on football. Cedric Pierman's NFL flag football did start this Saturday. I was out there to take some pictures. I actually posted a video of Cedric coaching his little group, and there was an enthusiastic group of parents out there. They also had Cedric's wife, a doctor at UNC Hospital. She had her and one of the UNC Hospital interns out there with her as well. So Ashibo, I think, is planning to go out there sometime before the end of the season and put something together. I have not had a chance to post some pictures, but I will get those up in the last couple of days. The other neat thing is they actually do have officials, and the officials that they're using are Northwood students who play football. So that's neat. That's a good experience for the football players, for the high schoolers, as well as the kids. And it's just interesting to see the kids playing. And the other thing too is there were 2 or 3 girls that were out there as well. So that was fun to see them out there playing against the boys. So that's looking good. And we'll see if we won't have more information about that league in the future. All right. I will now be quiet and let Ashibo talk about what he's got in this week's paper.
Yeah, so it's kind of roundup heavy this week. We got the boys basketball playoff roundup and girls basketball playoff roundups from rounds 1 through 3. So you can read all about what happened in the county from the basketball playoffs these past a week or so in the paper. And we also have story on the local athletes in college taking on college basketball tournaments. Some have already completed. If you look at McKinnis Lively, former Northwood girls basketball player, and Christopher Newport, I think they already won their conference tournament down in the D3 division, coast to coast conference. So they earned themselves a spot in the D3 college tournament. And also we got a lot of other players that are waiting for their conference tournaments as well. Of course, Drake Powell at UNC, Jaren Stevenson at Alabama. Those are starting next week. But Olivia Porter at Marquette, they're playing this week. Skylar Adams at Shaw, they already completed. It's a lot of local athletes in college that went through or are still waiting to go through their conference tournaments and see if they can get a spot in their respective NCAA tournaments at their levels. So just if you guys are following March Madness, also follow our local athletes who are taking part in it as well. And then also we have our regular sports roundup with all the mini spring sports we have going on at the same time: baseball, softball, girls soccer, boys and girls lacrosse, boys tennis, some boys golf stuff as well, and of course track and field. So you can read more about what happened last week in all those sports in our paper, and it's online as well. And then also too, tomorrow that's going to be online, but it's also in the paper now. We have a story with some of our local football players getting selected for the Carolina Coaches Combine. And we had one, Nick Glover from Chatham Central, selected to the senior event, which would kind of be an exposure type of event for him and some of the other players for possibly getting into the Senior Bowl, some of the senior bowls and things like that, the Shrine Bowl, the East and West Bowl, with the North Carolina Coaches Association as well. So chance for some all-star opportunities for the guys from Chatham Central and Seaford if they do well at the combines.
Yeah, I was going to toss in, you mentioned both Jaren and Drake. All right, Drake is playing in the Carolina versus Duke game on Saturday at the Dean Smith Center. That game starts at 6:30. College game day is going to be there. That starts up at 10 o'clock in the morning. I think that show is going to run for an hour or two. You're able to get in there. I think they're letting folks line up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I think they open up the doors at 7:30. So you can go out there and take a look at that. And then with Jaren, this should be a good game. It starts at 8. It's 2:30. I'm sorry. For some reason, I thought it was later. It is at 2:30 on Saturday. It's Alabama against Auburn. And when they played the last time, Jaren had a good game. So you got an opportunity to see two Chatham County players out there on Saturday. Jaren in the Alabama-Auburn game at 2:30. That's on ESPN. And then you've got the Duke-Carolina game with Drake at 6:30. So, folks, our Chatham County athletes are continuing to play on the college level. All right. Are we ready for the athlete of the week? Ashibo's athlete of the week.
Yeah. So athlete of the week this week, we're going to go to Chatham Central softball for Chloe Brewer. She earns athlete of the week this week, of course, for her performance in the Bears 8-5 win over Eastern Randolph last Friday. And in that game, she knocked in the go-ahead run to complete a fifth inning comeback for Chatham Central. They were trailing 5-3, entering the top of the fifth. And then after a walk, had tied the game at 5 runs apiece. Chloe came up to the plate with 2 outs, and she singled on the ground ball, sending in Nicole Menes home. She sent Menes home for the lead, and Brewer also hit Menes home once again later in the game to give Chatham Central a 7-5 lead. So she helped extend the lead as well later in the game, and she finished the night 3 for 3 from the plate. So great performance from her. And you can read more about Chloe after her freshman season last year. She's coming in as a sophomore and adding on to that young Chatham Central core that started last year, had a great season. Now coming back and looking for an even better year at Bear Creek. So congrats to Chloe Brewer and Chatham Central softball on a great start to the season.
All right. Hey, congratulations, Chloe. Let's get into spring sports. Or is there anything we need to wrap up on winter sports before we talk in spring sports? And we may want to start with softball if we're going to start off on spring sports.
Yeah, so I actually got some scores from just this week. up until today. So not the best week for a lot of our diamond sports teams in the county, both baseball and softball. But just starting with softball, we had Chatham Central getting the Mercy Rule win over BY on the 4th earlier this week, 15-0. And so they'll be playing C4 at C4 tomorrow night. And then Jordan Matthews, big one over Northwood, 11-4 earlier this week as well. And JM will be at Eastern Randolph tonight, actually. And just looking at some other scores, Pinecrest beat Northwood 22-7 earlier in the week, and Northwood will be hosting BY tomorrow night. And then Chatham Charter lost to Providence Grove 4-3 on Monday. And tonight they will be hosting URE Charter. So just a rundown of softball this week. Baseball, like I said, not the best week for the Chatham team. Southeast Alamance beat Northwood 5-3. URE Charter beat Chatham Central 11-0, both on March 4th. And then Southeast Alamance shut out Chatham Charter 10-0 on the 4th as well. So, that's what we have for baseball, softball scores. Also, we can go into girls soccer as well because C4, the defending champions, started their season this week, Monday, 20-0 win over Graham. So they're starting off with a bang. Sophia Viana, 8 goals. Caitlin Ehrman, 5 goals. I think Willara had Reagan Willara had a hat trick as well in that game, and a whole bunch of other young players came in and got some at the goal as well. And then Cedar Ridge gets the 9-6 win over Northwood on Monday. Providence Grove beat Jordan Matthews 10-1 on Monday. And Cornerstone Charter beat Chatham Charter 9-0 on Tuesday. So outside of C4, it's a little bit of a rough week in girls soccer as well, but I'm sure all of our teams will bounce back later on in the season. Boys lacrosse, if you guys want to go into that as well, Northwood 11, Cedar Ridge 8 on Tuesday, C4 20, Southeast Alamance 2 on Tuesday as well. So pretty good week so far for our 2 boys lacrosse teams. Girls lacrosse, I don't think has started yet in the county. I think they'll get started next week.
Yeah, it's a lot of activity. And you and I ran into the C4 soccer coach, and he was talking, 20. That's very unusual to score that many points in a high school soccer game. But he also mentioned the fact that Katie Leonard, who's on the basketball team, is their goalkeeper, and she wasn't there as the goalkeeper, but it still worked out fine. So you got to watch the C4 girls soccer team again this year. I've got a feeling that they may do some really special stuff this year. Also lacrosse, the men's lacrosse, the boys lacrosse is moving on. Also girls lacrosse, as you said, is going to start up with that. And Chatham County's been improving on lacrosse. Randy Cox is the coach over in Northwood. It's got less of a pool now than he did previously because, again, a lot of the size of Northwood has gone down. But he says he's got a good group of players who are going to be – all of them are going to have a good amount of opportunity to play. So definitely looking forward to that. The other thing, too, is Jared over at Seaforth mentioned they're still going through applications for their new football coach. So Coach Gary had left. He's not coaching next season, but they have not finished going through the process of going through the applicants. So as soon as Ashibo and I hear something about it, we will let you folks know.
Actually, I did get an update from Jared yesterday. I did ask.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, like you say, he's still conducting interviews, but he did say they should come to a decision by the 3rd week of March. So just to give you guys a rough timeline of where Seaforth is in the process.
Hey, when it comes to knowing all the coaches and ADs, Ashibo's the man. I just kind of catch it on the periphery because they all want to know, did you get a good picture of me? I'm like, yeah, sure I did. All right. All right. You're going to be at the C4 game tomorrow. Is that right?
Yes, I'll be at the girls' game tomorrow with Seaforth versus East Duplin.
Okay, I got family obligations, so I'm not doing anything tomorrow. However, next week, I am hoping that one or both of the teams make it to the regionals and planning to be out there to Winston-Salem to take pictures. And as I said, we'll see what we're going to do about live streaming the ChathamNC Sports Roundup for next week, depending on, we don't know who's going to make it, and we don't know the times yet, except that it's going to be on Thursday. Anything else before we wrap up, Ashibo?
Nope, I think we got it all covered today.
Hey, folks, as usual, thank you so much. I see right now we've got 26 of you watching us. Appreciate it. Last week we had 1,400 of you stop by and watch it. Because just remember, just because you can't watch it at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, it's up there. And I did mention this last week. I got another notification from Facebook. Our live streams on Facebook are only up for 30 days, and then they're taking it down. It's not just us. It's anybody who's doing anything live only stays for 30 days. However, you can go to YouTube and you can find our live streams, not just from this year, but from last year if you want to go back and see something. And again, as always, congratulations to the athlete of the week. And this week it's Chloe Brewer from Chatham Central Softball. All right. Anything else, Shibo?
Nope, I think we're all good.
All right. Just a reminder, Shibo Rojas is on X, and there is a Shibo R38. Just go ahead and make sure to follow him. Folks, thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week.